learn some things. We had him in Code Ninjas for like the past, 3 years. Awesome. So thank you for that. Gave my afternoons some time off. But so my name is Gerardo. I work in finance. So I am an agency principal with PFS Investments. I'm a investment advisor rep with Primerica Advisors, as well as a mortgage loan originator. So I do a lot of things, but basically I help people with their finances. Mostly I work with middle-income families and small businesses, less than 100 employees. My background, kind of where I started, how I got to here, I grew up on a farm as well, on a dairy farm, cattle ranch in southeast New Mexico. That's where I grew up doing. My parents never had a financial advisor. Nobody came to our door and talked to us about, the economics and, interest rates, inflation, all that kind of stuff. Finances in growing up was really something we didn't talk about, right? And so, when I left the farm, I joined the Army. I joined the Army 10 days before 9/11. So, I was there from the beginning, from the invasion all the way to 2017. So I had a pretty good career. I had a great career. I was an infantryman, I was a paratrooper, drill sergeant, all that kind of stuff. I was going to be a master sergeant, right? That was my next promotion. But my career was doing great, but my family life was basically in pieces. I was going through a divorce. I was in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. My kids were here in Conroe at the time, with my ex-wife, and traveling back and forth. And it was just one of those things where I was at a crossroads, right? Do I continue my career, or do I, try to build something back with my family? And so I decided to leave the military. I didn't retire. I didn't get kicked out. I requested to my brigade, or my 1-star, to get released. And they did it, right? So I came here. Luckily, a couple months before that, about a year before that, I met a guy at a Starbucks. His name is Tom. He was him and his wife run an office there in Hattiesburg. They do, investments and insurance and things like that. And he kind of showed me kind of the opportunity in financial services. And right there in the Starbucks, I was like, man, how do I do that? Right? Because I've always had like side gigs. I've always been that. I used to repair phones and computers on the side, right? Crack screens. Like I would give you my card, because if you had an iPhone, I could charge $120 to fix your screen. So I had a little side gig. I always had a bunch of stuff on the side. And when he showed me what I could do in finance, I was like, I want to do that, right? And so I actually signed my contract with him that day. He sent me to the licensing class that weekend. I passed my exam the next week, and I made my first sale a couple weeks later, right? And I made like $500. So for me, I was like, this is pretty good. Prior to the military, all I known was cattle, dairy farming. I used to operate machinery. I welded on the farm. That's all I knew how to do. So aside from the military, I didn't really have any other job experience. But then whenever that happened, I was like, well, I could do this, right, for a living. And so I did that part-time. And a year later, I left the military. I came to Houston. And I opened up my office on the north side in Greens Point. Didn't really know much about Houston. So that office failed miserably. Pretty quickly, actually. It's very different to come out, I was gung-ho. I was always like, hey, to me, the fastest way to get me to do something is tell me that I can't do it, right? Like, oh, you can't do that. No, watch me, right? So I came here and I failed completely, failed miserably. So, I went to work. I went back to work, 9 to 5. I was a welder, industrial welder. I used to build tank cars for Shell, Valero, all those kind of, that's what we did. But I still kept my licenses. So I still helped families on the weekends, in the evenings. I built my book of business part-time. And then 2022, 400 employees, all but 40 got laid off. They closed the plant. They sold it off to become they sold the plant to become a railroad car repair facility. That's not something that I realized that, like, you can be loyal, you could be a hard worker, and you're working for somebody else, like, you're always replaceable, right? And so to me, I was like, well, I didn't come here to be somebody's employee, and the circumstances kind of had me go back. So I kind of realized, you know what, it's time for me to go all into myself. And so, I quit that job, and I went full time to build my book of business, in finances and financial services. So now, my office is right next door. I was partnered in with an office in Sugar Land, but now this is like my actual office, right? That I own the contract on. And so for me, up until this point, I've been a pretty successful personal producer, right? I've helped develop clients, and for my own book. One of the things that I learned working with families, especially middle-income families, is like there's a lot of information out there, right? There's a lot of social media noise. The reality is that most families, it's not that they're lazy or anything like that. It's just they just don't have somebody that is really looking at the whole picture for them, right? And I think one of the things that I took from my military experience was not only was I a trainer, but I was also a risk manager. That was one of my primary functions as in the role that I played was a risk manager. In the military, we have a process. It's called the composite risk management process. So if you ever better served, you understand we have a very, we do very complex, very difficult, very high risk operations in the military. I was a fire support coordination. I was a chief computer, which means I used to calculate fires between direct fire, indirect fire, naval, fixed air, and rotary wing assets on a battlefield. That's a lot of stuff going on at the same time. And so there's got to be a process to manage risks, because in the military, you're risking your time, you're risking your equipment, and you're risking lives, right? So you have to have a process. So I took that process that was just ingrained in me. I never had a want to be a financial services, but to be able to take that and I just applied it to what I do now, right? I call it the financial risk management process. It's a 5-step process, and I think it's a little bit different. It's a different way of approaching things than most financial advisors or even mortgage people that you talk to, is because like my process is not sales based. My process is, individual. Like what is, I want to be an advocate for people who don't have, that structure, right? And so what I do is I apply that financial risk management process to, everything that I do, right? Identify the risk, assess the hazards, the severity, the probability. Once we do that, we develop controls, okay? When you have a risk, you can only do 3 things. You can eliminate it, mitigate it, or you can transfer it to something else. Develop controls, and then we implement and supervise, and it's a process that's ongoing. So with my clients that I have now, they're my clients for life. Because we're always, so of course I don't want to put them in a position that next year at the Thanksgiving party, like, hey man, what happened to this, whatever, right? So because my clients are with me long term, I want to make sure that I'm doing what's in their best interests. And for me, the only way that I can know how to do that is to apply that process. So right now, kind of my pivot is...
real quick on your pivot, and then we'll let them ask questions.
Yes,
okay?
So my real quick, 1 minute, my pivot, I'm just taking what I've learned up until now to be a personal producer, and it's time to scale, right? Instead of being a one-person shop, I have a small team, but instead of being a one-person shop, now it's time to scale, to take what I've learned and, train new people, so we can, instead of reaching hundreds of people, we can reach tens of thousands of people, with that focus. And so that's really my pivot here. Why I moved out here is to duplicate that training to somebody else and grow that way. But that's what I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question?
Yes, ma'am.
What would be the number one piece of advice you would give to somebody who's looking into your business?
The number one piece of advice that I would give into my business and just every other business is to really look at what their mission statement, why they're doing it, right? A lot of companies have a product in mind that they want to sell, right? Products are about profit, right? But really it's about, what is that person trying to be? Are they just a salesperson, right? Like, what are the fees? How does that work? Or are they trying to build a relationship with you long term? Somebody who works, somebody who comes into my kind of organization, I don't always do business with them because I may not have what they need, right? But at least I will talk to them and give them my time and give my best, my best recommendation on how to proceed. Yeah. Anybody else?
No questions. Come on, you guys. There we go, David.
Yes.
So you talked about how you want to scale.
Mhm.
My experience with scaling to larger teams means you need to have processes
Yes.
and documentation.
Yep.
I guess my question is, how are you going to keep that central core mantra of being the helpful, not the salesperson,
Yeah.
while you're growing?
So to be able to keep those to keep that that core, really it comes down to the training process and then also the promotions or how we promote, because I control promotions, right? Because I control promotions inside my organization. I don't I have people that work with me now that are kind of going through the licensing process, and I've taken them from not knowing anything. I got a lady, she works at Methodist Hospital, knows nothing about finance, but putting her through the process that I've established, right, that I've trained on, and just going on these appointments with her. I do field training appointments where basically it's like a right seat, left seat ride. So I'll run the appointment, she observes, right, and then at some point we flip flop, and then I observe, so just controlling it down to that level. Because now that's how she knows how to help families, right? That's how she does her appointments, is the way that, the same way that I've done it. That's how I've trained her how to do it, and the same with the other people that work with me. But that's how I can control that process, is by controlling the training process. I don't, you would think that you want to hire from people, you want to bring people on that are MBAs and have all these financial degrees and stuff, but reality is that there's a lot of, their focus is not the same. It's just not the same. Bottom line, yes.
What was some of the biggest challenges you have today? Like not when you started or
Yeah.
scaling?
So the biggest challenges I have today, one is the scaling, right? Because having the processes in place, going from a one person shop to you got to have processes and admin stuff in place, right? So just kind of going through that. But really the other thing is just perception. Perception. When people say, "Oh, you do life insurance," what's the first thing you think about? Well, I mean, yes, I do have a life insurance license, but I don't just do life insurance, right? We don't just look at the one part of your life. We look at your whole financial house, right? And maybe life insurance is part of it, but maybe it's not. So really, it's that perception of that. I'm not just there to pitch a product, right? Like I do have, we do offer pretty much solutions for any stage of life, right? We don't just do commission based. I do flat. I am a flat fee advisor for some people. That's a big deal. I don't just do mutual funds. I do ETFs, stocks, bonds, mutual funds, all that other stuff as well. So there's a lot of different. It's just perception, because Primerica is a big umbrella. But the thing about Primerica is every agency is independently owned and able to run their office the way they see fit. So that's really the hardest part, is just kind of overcoming that. Yes, ma'am.
What would you say is the mix of what your daily schedule looks like? Is it scaling versus actual direct
Yeah,
client
working with clients.
meetings?
Yeah. So right now, right now I do a lot of maintenance on, the clients that I do have. So my wife is actually in my business as well, so she helps with that. We're a family business, so she helps with the clients. Kind of frees up my time to do training. I do a lot of training right now online. I built a community on school. It's a training community. It's for my agents. So I spend a lot of my time right now. I'm spending my time focusing on training new agents. The appointments that we do go on are what we call field training appointments, and they're on Zoom, mostly in the evenings. So during the day, I'm doing like, admin stuff, setting appointments for my part-time agents. And in the evening times, we'll run appointments, 2 appointments a night, usually 30 to 40 minutes apiece. But the majority of my time right now is focused on putting those systems into place where I can, train new people, putting content out there, because right now it's like I can't be here and in Cyprus at the same time. So going online, putting everything that I know into one place, and that's really what the school platform is helping to do, is I have courses on there for, courses. I'm online most of the time. You can reach me on there. So it's not something where I have to go and physically be there, right? So using that, the school platform a lot right now. But yeah, that's, yes.
What is your prospecting process at the moment? How are you generating leads?
The way I generate leads, most of my leads come from most of my leads are referral leads. I've built a referral network that between realtors, CPAs, tax preparers, that's where I get a lot of leads. And then also the new just referrals from my agents. A lot of times, I have people, they have regular jobs, right? Sometimes they can't go out and do something, right? So they might run across somebody that needs some help, and so they'll refer them out to me or one of the other people in the organization, and then usually split that commission. But for now, it's just referrals. I mean, that's really, I've done the traditional buy leads, generate leads online type stuff, which is great. I hate cold calling. I hate doing that kind of stuff. It's just like a soul drain to me, I feel like. But the thing about those type of leads is they have a really high chargeback rate. So yeah, you get a lot of leads, but then they also charge back 6 months later, because it's really about, you're really chasing down they're really going out, they're basing you off of your price, not the value that you bring. And so I find that a referral lead is 100 times better than any lead I could generate online from a stranger. Just building that relationship, because it's just better to work. For me, it's better to work that way, But yeah, that's where I generate leads, referrals, in my network. But yeah, that's what I have. Yes, sir.
So when you start messing with people's money, it's like you're messing with one of their kids sometimes.
Yes.
It's very personal.
It is.
It's their nest egg. It's their entire life savings. And sometimes people can be embarrassed about, the
Yep.
sticky situations they put themselves in. I think, I guess my question is, how do you get over that? How do you break down those walls and let people trust you?
Yeah. So most of my clients that I have now, a lot of them, started with family, obviously, family and friends, but all the clients that we've got subsequently from referrals and things like that, it's really I approach it as education first. I never sell on the first appointment. When I go to somebody's house, it's really there to provide education, right? And then to identify what kind of risks they have, right? And then I come back, we'll put together a proposal. But I never sell on a first appointment. Also, it's always based off of, my approach is, I'm not trying to ask you to spend more money. My whole focus is, whatever money you're spending now, what things can we do to redirect them to different places to kind of put yourself back on track, right? But really, it's an education process. Most of the referrals that I go talk to, I'm always going with somebody else, right? So, for example, I have my lady over here in Cyprus. Hey, Gerardo, I have my sister-in-law. She was asking me about her 401k the other day. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and set up a time and go talk to her. She comes with me. We both go together. Obviously, I lead the conversation because she's still training, right? But it's that's how I do all. I always have somebody else with me. It's never just me and the client. It's always a 3-person appointment between myself, somebody who has a relationship with that individual, because if I can Because obviously they have credibility, right? They know them, they trust them, they respect them. So by default, because they trust me as well, I'm able to build that rapport a lot better. So, yeah. Yes, sir.
Could you, given what, the approach you have, like that, educating first, have you ever, for example, done something like this where you're doing a seminar?
Yeah.
Educating a group in that way?
Yes. So right now I've been doing first-time homebuyer seminars with some of the realtors that I have. So we do primarily focus for first-time homebuyers. But in the past I have done workshops at say an employer, small business. We'll go in during maybe a lunchtime. We'll figure out, okay, what are the topics you want to talk about? It's a service that we offer to small businesses, complimentary. We'll usually bring lunch or something. We'll do a 30-minute little workshop, debt, investments, whatever we want to talk about, and then from there help like that, because small business plans are also one of we do small businesses, right? So SEP IRAs, simples, 401ks, stuff like that. So that's a big part of my book as well, is working with small businesses. I work with mechanic shops, dentist offices. I mean, that's kind of like small businesses, right? Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm curious, when it comes to the scaling,
Mhm.
I'm just curious, how do you intend to preserve the culture of your
Yeah.
business? And
The way to preserve the culture of that, is the whole purpose of people come on board is I work with those people come on board is those people eventually want to open up their own office sometime, right? At one point, and which is fine. I can't really control what they do after they go and open their own business and run their own book, right? But I can control I control the promotions, and I control the field training process from the time they come on board to the time they go out and open up their own book, right? So by being able to control the field training process, the licensing process in-house, and obviously those field trainings appointments that are all one-on-one or across the kitchen table. It's harder to do over Zoom. I prefer in person, but that's how we're able to kind of preserve that culture. Now, once everybody goes independent and does their own thing, I just it's like your kid, right? You just hope that you did a good enough job to where they can preserve that. But after that, it's their own business. They can do whatever they want with it. You know what I mean? But at least up until that point, we can control that. Yeah.
So one last question for you. How can we as a community help you?
I would say the best way to help me is to, for one, I would like to know about you what you do, right? Because I feel like I'm coming into this community, right? I'm kind of new to here, so what kind of value can I bring to you, right? So just being able to sit down with you, maybe get a cup of coffee, understand what it is that you do as a business, where you're trying to go, and then that way, as I'm going along, I can be a good referral partner for you in your business, and then vice versa, right? If you see somebody that, this is what this guy does, maybe they're trying to buy a house, maybe they got some debt issues, maybe they're looking to invest in, retirement or something like that. Hey, you should talk to this person. Maybe they can, So that's the best way you do it. If I understand about what's going on with your business and what you need, I could be a good referral source for you. Yeah. All right. Thank you.